Watch Who?
Hello.
And welcome to Watch Who, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm Mark.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm a Doctor Who fan.
And I'm new to watching Who.
Watching for the very first time.
Very first time.
And here we are, just along the banks of the Thames. I haven't got anything this week. I mean, we could have, if we'd known, we could have recorded when we were actually along the banks of the Thames in London a few weeks ago.
Could have. We could have released a little intro or something, couldn't we? But no.
Which Resurrection of the Daleks this week. Did you watch it in two in the end?
I did. I did it over 2 days. And actually, oddly, I found it easier. It being like 45 minutes. I found it easier it being longer, but two. Because it's basically, it's like watching episodes 1 and 2 and then 3 and 4.
And how recently have you watched? Only because, obviously, last week with Frontios, we had some
No. This
issues.
was, I finished it on Friday. I watched the last one Friday. So I did Thursday and Friday. And then, because I knew I wouldn't be able to watch it Saturday and I knew we were going straight into this Sunday. So but I have watched the latest Doctor Who since then.
Oh, what, as in the Giggle?
No, the third one.
Yeah. Like last night's
Yeah,
one.
it was the Giggle. Sorry, yes.
Yeah. Oh, so you have seen it, because I was going to say, as we are recording, that last one has just gone out.
So, and I had a moment watching it where I was like, you can't mix anything that you've seen in here with what you watched the other day. They have to be separate entities in your head.
Well, yeah, no, it was good. I mean, the Toymaker stuff. Well, also news, the animation of the 60s Toymaker story has been announced. It is coming out.
Ah, is it? That's exciting.
I should have showed you the trailer for it. It's weird animation. It's like...
Oh, I have seen it, I think. I think someone showed it. I think I saw it on a Twitter thing when people were talking. And I just presumed that they were talking about because it was coming back. And I actually thought it was a fan-made animation. I didn't realise that was the official one.
Yeah, I'm not... it's a different kind of style. They've gone, obviously, because that... I mean, we weren't that impressed with the original one. With all like the games and stuff, it was a little bit boring, but they've gone a bit sort of cartoon style, and it's going to be all a bit more over the top and everything. So, I mean, it is coming out, so that'll be interesting to watch. So it's everyone's talking about the Toymaker at the moment. Who would have thought?
Do you know what? In a way, I was thinking about it while I was watching it, and it had like the throwback to the original one, stuff like that, and I thought it's just such a lovely idea for the 60th, because that character has not returned, what I'm aware of, but I'm sure at the time you said he's not returned. So this character from so long ago, from the first Doctor to come back. And also, it was just so much fun. And it's such a fun villain to have. The Spice Girl scene floored me.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I mean, William Hartnell would not have expected that in a future series. And there was a lot more of the new Doctor in it than I realised.
Yeah,
so.
what a new Doctor. I mean, we can talk about it, can't we? Because like by the time this comes out, people who are yeah, okay. Like I was like, are we holding back on something here? I really liked the idea of the split, and I wanted to know what you thought of it.
Well, it's obviously quite controversial on Twitter. Most people like it, I think. I
think it opens up for so many things, and that's really exciting.
It is, yeah.
In terms of spin-offs and things like that.
That's the feel. That's the thing. That's the first thing that I thought of. Was like, oh, they're doing that because it more of like in a cynical way. They're not really doing it for the story. They're doing it for franchising and licensing and spin-offs, and that we can set other things up later on. But this is definitely setting the future for all the Disney stuff.
But what's interesting, so like I think since then I've seen a few things about, because I watched it about an hour and a half after the broadcast. I couldn't be there for the time, so I kept off everything. I was like, I'm gonna have to watch this because there'll be too many spoilers. So I sat and watched it, and there's a lot of things about like Russell T Davies losing his partner, and because it shows you that Christmas Day episode where he's in a club dancing, and someone found this clip from his Desert Island Discs where he talks about he met his partner in a club and they met eyes, and they're like, if you could go back to any time and you go back to that time. And I don't know, I felt like there was a lot of I think it's nice that he got to keep this person alive. He had the option, because you can write whatever you want, you're a writer. And he chose to keep this doctor alive and to have a happy life and a happy ending, rather than, and it's not to say that the previous ones aren't. I just think for the David Tennant one, I mean, what was his last words were like, I don't want to go. And then we've just got this sort of unusual happy that opens up to so much, but also and it's kind of like the therapy. Because all the other doctors previously, they've all had these sort of, the more recent ones, they've all got these guilts, haven't they, of what they do their time. And it sort of gives it a complete restart, refresh to be like, we've dealt with this.
Yeah, it's a clever way of doing a reboot without doing a reboot.
Exactly. And it's really clever. I don't know. I thought it was really fun and interesting, and I was like, if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna do things different, fucking do them different and do it how you want. And like, I don't think, I mean, I know I read afterwards people sort of said like there was talk of that sort of split thing. I didn't expect it at all, and I loved it. And then you got to see them interacting with each other. Brilliant. Like, it just so fun. And that's what I've felt these last 3 episodes have been, is fun.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
it's brought back the sort of the history and the joy, because as well, I've not seen a lot of the newer stuff. I have seen bits and pieces, and it's always felt so dark and like heavy stuff, I mean, and it's a series about like sci-fi and life and death and the world coming to an end quite often. This has just felt like such a breath of fresh air.
It's looking forward. It doesn't look too bad, because we've done, even the anniversary ones that we've done, they all meet up. It's all the past stuff. Everyone comes back, and they didn't really do that. I mean, we didn't get a Susan in the end after people were expecting that or anything like that. But actually, no, you don't. It's a perfect way to look forward, and also slightly reboot for what's coming up.
And we had like last season, you had the Ian moment.
Yeah.
We have those. It loses its impact to have it all the time. And I think this just felt like a really lovely way to give something to the fans and those things of like, and he has this happy ever after, but then we can look to the future and he can enjoy it because he knows it's in the hands of himself, And then also the potential of spin-offs. I mean, he said apparently like David Tennant won't be back.
Oh, right. Okay.
He has said that. But I think what it opens up for is some potential Donna stories. I mean, Donna, being on Earth, she now works for UNIT. There's some nice UNIT on 120k a year, 5 weeks holiday.
yeah. There'll be a UNIT. Everyone's saying there's a UNIT spin-off at some point. So,
yeah, there's gotta be. And there's some they've set up some really great characters there as well. I like the idea that companions could come back and be working for units. That means previous companions can come in and like have storylines in it as part of supporting unit. It opens up so much, which is surely as a fan. I mean, isn't life boring if we love everything?
Yeah. No, but I'm happy to take it as it is, and that's what it is. That's what happened. I don't hate it. I don't mind it at all. So it's fun.
Yay!
But let's go back to 1984, where we actually are right now. And to Resurrection of the Daleks. So yeah, I watched this on iPlayer actually, and I forgot it was in 2. I was like, it was coming up to like where I know episode 1 usually finishes, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot it's 2 45-minute episodes. So this one, I had this really early on video. It was like one of the first ones I got on video. So it was the first like Tegan and Turlo story I saw. I've watched this a lot. Yeah, a lot. This one.
Can we just jump to the end?
And yeah, well, okay, yeah.
I did not expect that.
No, it's quite sudden.
I didn't expect it because normally when it's a companion's last episode, they have a lot more to do. And she was just on a bed most of the time.
Yes, she was, wasn't she? Yeah.
She really wasn't. So from that point of view, I really wasn't expecting it. But in terms of like her arc and story, the last few, I mean, I've commented on it. The last few episodes, she's like, "Oh, I want to go back to my mom," moaning a lot. And her exit, I thought, fit where her head was and what the character head's been like when it's no longer fun. Stop it. I thought that fit really well. Because we're mid-season. I don't know where we are in the season. We're mid-season, I'm guessing. We still have Turlo in his school uniform.
Yeah, it's well, okay, there's a lot of characters in this.
There's a lot.
Actually.
And I'll be honest, there were times when I didn't keep up with it because of how many characters there were.
Okay. Well, I'll try and explain.
I got the I got the whole like what was going on and like, you know, when people turned to being, but there were so many characters. I was kind of like, there were points where I was like, have I seen that person before? What were they doing in the last thing? There was just so many to keep track of. And also, I think this is one of those. So it reminded me a little bit, and maybe it's just because it's a Dalek one, but the second Dalek story when they come up through the water in London.
Oh, Dalek Invasion of Earth.
I thought it was Invasion of Earth, and I didn't say it just in case. I had that in my head. It reminded me a little bit of that in terms of like the threat, the number of characters and things. But Invasion of Earth, because it was spread out longer, it gave you more time to like follow and digest. And I think that was maybe the only flaw for me of this being 45 minutes, is everything was so compacted. What would have been over 15 minutes was into like 45. Well, yeah, nearly an hour was compacted to 45 minutes. So it felt a bit more, those moments. I like the pace, but with that many characters, it felt a lot.
It does go at quite a pace. And what I noticed about it this time is how quite like gloomy it all is.
Yeah.
And how darker it is. And we had that a bit last week with Frontios, where it was a bit more, you don't notice it so much. But if you go back to like last season, where there was like the Mara and the snake, you know, just the look of it, but also the tone of the script, like it's darker in tone in both aspects of production and script, because it's the lighting's got a bit better, but the way the characters are, it's all very grim. And I love on this spaceship, if we just start with the spaceship stuff, where it isn't all sci-fi flashy stuff. It's nothing's working, like the door's not working. Everyone's in a bit of a bad mood because you've got that guy that's like new on the ship, and she's showing him around, and she's like, "Oh yeah, welcome to the, you know, nothing," and they're all complaining about stuff, and it's all just very like everyone's just really pissed off and in a bad mood about everything. I don't know, we haven't really had stuff like that before. It's a different way of writing sci-fi. And I quite like that, though. It's a bit more realistic. It's a bit more gritty in a way. And they've still got, like, you know, guns that make silly sci-fi noises and stuff. But I don't know, it just feels a bit more like reality. Like, actually, this is what it'd be like. Not everything works. The doors don't work.
I really enjoyed the intro of, like, meeting those characters, being in the prison. And like, I enjoyed that, too.
This is apparently, this is one of the, like, highest like death counts. There's like 76 deaths over this in this story.
Really?
More than like,
I can imagine there's a lot of death.
Because you've got like everyone you meet, everybody dies apart from the Dr. Tegan, Turlo and Lytton. Yeah. Everyone we meet. Like, and you've got those people at the beginning, you know, with the, you know, in the green with the hats.
Yeah.
That crew, and they're like, "Oh, we're being attacked," and she's sitting there smoking. You wouldn't get, you know, on the side. She's sitting there, you know, smoking, going, "Yeah, you know," and then they start getting attacked and everything. And so many people just die straight away in that first attack.
They do, yeah.
You know, it's just all going on. And I don't know if you recognise that uniform with the, as I say, like the little triangle hat and the green thing, because in It's a Sin,
yeah.
You know, he goes and has a job on Doctor Who. This is the story they recreate with the Daleks, and he's wearing that outfit.
Yeah. Yes, I know exactly what you mean.
So they recreate that sort of Dalek attack bit at the beginning. I call them the Burger Crew. You know, just talking about the cast as well. You got some good names. So you got Rula Lenska. I don't know. Do you remember Rula Lenska? You might remember her from Celebrity Big Brother with the cat.
Say that again. I might remember from Celebrity Big Brother because of what?
You know when, you know that guy who pretended to be the cat?
Oh yeah. George, what's his name? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she was. It
the
was
woman.
Her. He was being the cat too.
Pussycat.
You might remember from such programs as Celebrity Big Brother playing the cat.
But so that's her. She's the one in white. The officer.
The cat owner. Yeah.
I don't believe this. How long has the station been in this state?
Since regular inspections ceased.
The place is falling to pieces.
And you're seeing it on a good day. If you wanted to see everything spick and span, you shouldn't have asked for a transfer to a prison.
Ruler, you know what? Fuck off. Today, you've really got on my nerves. Go and clear your dirty towels. Come out the bathroom. Do this. Why are you wearing that? Just get out of my face. You're not my mother.
My tour of duty finishes here in 8 weeks. I'm dependent on a good report from the captain for my next promotion.
There's got some good sort of 80s names in there. This always confused me as a child watching this. I could never understand. So they do land in 1980s Earth because you see the bridge at the background and the buses going past, but it's like a deserted sort of part of London. And because you've got that opening with space people and stuff, I was like, this is it with Doctor Who. You're like, is it intentional or is it just like a production thing that they've used 1980s? And I just could never. Why are they talking like they're stuck in the middle of nowhere when you can just walk down the road to a bus and stuff? I don't know. It just really confused me. I was like, where actually are they? And all of that part of London, we should have gone there actually. That's all it's very recognisable.
Right, then you're sending me to a bloody protest zone.
So all of that bit. That shot with all the sort of girders and everything where those people are running, that's all still there, but it's all restaurants and estate agents and stuff. It's a really nice part of London now, but obviously back then it was just all actual disused places. So it's really nice. I recommend going there and having a look round. Yeah, so you've got the time corridor thing happening. Then they meet, that guy, what's his name? Hold on.
You meet a lot of people. You meet the guy outside the door and he's like, well, you can't go in there, and he's injured, isn't he? It's all very mysterious, but they're going anyway, obviously. And then within 2 minutes, Turlo's missing.
But I between the spacey stuff and the more sort of earthy stuff. There's enough going on there, and people like Rulenska, she never meets the Doctor. There's loads of people that don't actually interact. They have completely separate storylines throughout. But the Burger Crew are under attack because obviously we've got the Daleks coming through. So the Daleks are on quite early. That's quite a good scene. And it's it's the tone of this is what really stands out. And there's this gas, and then you see it's quite graphic when there's all the people getting stuff on their face and everything.
So
and when
that was something that because we see that happen when they're on the ship. I couldn't work out if that was just them dying or if that went somewhere else, because I just remember seeing it in that what was the first episode or whatever it would have been, first, second. And then we don't really see it again. It doesn't really go anywhere. Did I miss something with that?
Well, I think it's just attacking. They just put the gas out to just try and... Yeah, I think it is forgotten, isn't it? Because they all put their helmets down.
That's what I mean. That's what I meant by sometimes I'd be following things and I was like, have I missed something? Or is that just now forgotten about? It was really effective. And I thought, is that something that we're going to see continuously? And by the time I watched the second one, I was like, I don't think I've seen that again. But I haven't seen that again. I haven't missed that, have I?
No.
Okay.
That's just a plot point that I've never realised before.
So, yeah.
But it looks cool. It looks cool with that initial attack.
It looks really cool.
But you get those two characters that go off. They're like, we've got to get rid of the prisoner, which the prisoner is Davros. And that is so graphic when he turns around. He's like, what's happened to me? And he's fingers coming up and he's all covered. Yeah. And then, so she shoots him. And then she gets proper shot and killed straight away. So even in those, first 10, 15 minutes, you followed these characters. You think they're going to be our characters of the week. And they're just all just gone already. So I don't think we've had something like that that's just so violent. And we've had Doctor Who being criticised for violence and stuff before, but I feel like this is a new version of that coming in now, where actually we wouldn't have had this last season. I can't see any of this happening last season, because even when they're being shot, they're screaming and I don't know, it's just everyone's just falling down straight away in this. Even that opening scene, those policemen are shooting loads of people down. Everyone's just been shot down all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just I didn't really realise that at the time, but watching it again, I'm like, oh, actually, I can see why people were criticising this. And this is not that kind of violence. You know, with the Fourth Doctor, Tom Baker stuff, that was a different kind of violence. Because there was there was like stuff where he was like drowning and things like that, or Leela being attacked by a rat or something. This is more like in the real world violence, I feel.
And you feel the threat of it. I just found it a really interesting notion that these humans have decided to join with the Daleks.
Well, see, did you pick up on... So we've got Davros, he's been frozen.
Yeah.
And the last time we saw Davros with the Fourth Doctor Romana, he got arrested and frozen. So he's been frozen all this time. Because you know those disco robots, the Movellans, all in white, and they had like the hair.
Yeah.
So the war's been going on. So whatever's happened, the Daleks have lost the war. So that's when Davros wakes up and he's like really shocked that the Daleks haven't won. So then you've got Lytton, who is like policeman guy. Oh my god! And when he's got that's the worst thing. Those Dalek helmets that they've got with the sort of Dalek-y bits sticking out. I mean, I don't know why did they decide to do that. Anyway, so he's working for the
so you
Daleks.
can clearly see that whose side they're on. That's why.
Yeah, I know.
There's so many fucking people in this episode. You know what side people are on.
So you've got Daleks versus Davros now. They want him for whatever reason, so they're coming to.
Well,
sort
they
of
want him
attack
to fix them and make them, and he knows that like things could be changed. They're their own worst enemies. And I get that some people have been brainwashed and stuff like that, but that people would like willingly, as humans, be part of like supporting the Dalek army.
Because Lytton, yeah, he's a bit of a... You don't really know what his motivation is, because he's pretending to work for Davros, and then he's not, because he's actually working for the other Daleks. But is he working for the actual Daleks as well? You know, you're like...
I just found it a really interesting concept, which has never been explored, because it's always been these guys against the human race. And then at some point during this war, they have decided to, some have, whether that's through choice or whether it's through, because like obviously they have the mind thing, but they must have been willing to do that in order to be swept in with it, because he says like you've just got to go with it and it makes this less painful. I don't know. I thought it's a really interesting concept that we haven't had that I can think of yet with the Daleks. Like it's always just been them versus humans. And during this war, like they know they need the humans, and these humans are working with them. Really interesting.
And we haven't got too much Dalek, because we don't like a lot of Dalek talk. They're in it enough, I think.
Yeah, they are enough. And I don't know if that's because it's just the 2 episodes, and that makes it easier to like accept and digest. Well, it does make me think, though. Actually, sorry, I'm jumping around to modern stuff now a little bit. We knew it was the Daleks because it's literally in the title, right? And I think of like what we've had recently where they'll release the titles and everyone's like, what does that mean? What could it be? Blah, blah, working it out and stuff. And I don't know at what point that changed. I'm guessing just in a new series rather than the old stuff where they started like unless it's like a Christmas one where you want it to be the big Dalek story and you're being really obvious. But there's times like where it's fun not to know who's going to be there. And it like, you know, because you get these names of these episodes. I'd have loved that whole thing to have started and then we meet the Daleks and that be like, oh my gosh, and then here they are. Especially for such a short story that's like mid-season. I would have enjoyed more not knowing they were there and then the surprise of them being there. I don't know what's this one called again? The
Resurrection of the Daleks.
Even if it had just been called like the Resurrection or like
it was originally called The Return.
Yeah. That I mean, like I think that's much more interesting or some like in terms of what does that mean? Because they are so great and iconic. And then when you do see them, but every episode title has their name in. So it's never a surprise.
No. But I like it's
But in the same way that a Cyberman could be a surprise or some other classic villains that we've had. Sorry, carry on.
But they say about, we've got to get the prisoner, and they're pressing around with the buttons, and the first you see of Davros is just sort of in the background behind that screen, and you don't always notice him until there's that reveal, and it's a new Davros, new mask, new costume, new actor. Much better than what we had before, because we did not like the previous one.
He was really good. And also, it made me think, I was like, because it's made really clear from early on that there's only one prisoner on the ship, because he says, like, if something goes wrong, shoot the prisoner, or release a prisoner or whatever. So you know that there's only one person. So this entire ship exists, this entire prison, just for Davros floating in space. That's crazy.
And then Davros doesn't want to leave. He's like, no, I'm working here. I'm not moving.
Yeah, he's having a great time. He's like, I've got my cyber suit. I'm great. No,
because I think they were thinking we're going to get him on the ship, off we go. But he's like, no, I'm working here. He's sort of doing his own thing, taking over people slowly.
He says he needs a chamber or something because, yeah.
He needs a laboratory and stuff. Lab, not laugh.
I definitely heard lavatory. But yeah, sure.
This comes up, talking to modern stuff again, going there again. So, did you see all this Davros controversy recently?
A little. I've seen a little bit. Again, I try and not go on too much because, especially running up to a series, I don't want to be spoiled of any other things because I think people will tell me off. But I have heard only through other people, after the episode, and they've gone, "Oh, have you heard about this?" And it's a whole he's not going to be in a wheelchair anymore or something.
So they did a little children in need bit with David Tennant and Davros, and it was.
I've seen it.
Yeah. So then, so Russell T Davies is basically saying, we want to bring Davros back, but society has moved on, and there's a problem with Davros that he's a wheelchair user who is evil, and they have problems with that. So that is why Davros will not be as we know Davros going forward.
Do you know what I find really interesting about that? I never thought of Davros in a wheelchair.
Well, this is the thing. Until he said that, so it's not in the episode. This was in an interview after the episode went out. If he hadn't have said that in an interview, everyone would have thought, well, that's Davros before. But no, I always thought it was because he was sort of half Dalek. That's why he's. I
presumed he was really old, and as his body was decaying, he created this machine
it's like a life support.
Himself. Yeah. Exactly. In the same way that Stephen Hawking used to communicate through a screen, I just presumed that he'd created this so that it would maintain his life so he could do what he wanted to do. And I presumed it was a machine. I never thought of it as a wheelchair. But I mean, technically it is. I mean, he's a character that sits in something. It moves him. It's how he communicates and controls his environments around him. But it's fascinating that I never thought of it like that.
No. And I've seen on Twitter some people are like, I'm disabled. Yeah, this is great. Or also, I'm disabled, and I've never thought of it like that either.
Yeah.
So
but
it's right across the spectrum.
It must be that they've obviously, because I reckon it's come from, because obviously they've had people, I mean, they've installed a wheelchair ramp now on the TARDIS. Great. Yeah. So we've seen that. So I reckon that they've had conversations with having an actor with a disability on the show. They've had those conversations probably about, well, what was it? And it's maybe come out of something from that where they've gone, oh, we hadn't thought of that. Because again, it's probably just one of those things that no one's ever thought about unless you're impacted by it. And it's probably come from some sort of training thing, conversation around it, and then it's made people think. I mean, we would think that though, because we're not in wheelchairs, we're able-bodied people. So unless someone is in a wheelchair, I wouldn't think they're in a wheelchair. But if you live in a wheelchair, you might see it differently. Very interesting.
But then it's also funny that I think I saw on Twitter there's a guy who is in a wheelchair who dresses up as Davros and goes to conventions and stuff with all that and everything.
Yeah.
And he was a bit annoyed. He's like, well, that's sort of taken that away from him in a way as well. So I don't know. It just, you can't, obviously it's not going to affect everyone.
Please
but
anyone or everyone. Yeah. You can please anyone.
Yeah.
You can't please everyone.
Yeah.
I remember, I mean, it's kind of the same, but it's not the same. But I remember having a conversation around, so in work, we were using the term global majority. And I remember saying this term to one of my friends who's Black, and he was like, I hate that term. And this has come from in my world of the arts, like people who were Black, and they were like, we identify as a global majority. And he was just a regular person who is Black, and he was like, oh my gosh, I've never heard that term before. And I was like, have you not? That's interesting that you've not heard that, because that is literally being used throughout everything in my industry right now. And he was like, I could not hate that more if I tried. Like, he was like really angry about it. Not at me, at like this term. And we were trying to I was like, I want to know why. Like, what is it about it? And he was like, because he was like, oh, right, it's right. But in this terms of the UK, it's false. We're not a majority. But he was like, globally, of course, but he's like, but even then, not really. He was like, because he was like, that it's such a messy thing. And also this whole idea of like pigeonholing people in itself is a thing. Like why we have to do that in itself is a question. But apparently in society we do. We have to like all be identified and all be like pigeonholed to what we are. And we can't just all be people and that be that. He was like, it's because we have inequality that we have to do that to point these things out. It's like a whole messy thing. He was like, but that term, he was like, I really hate that. So he's like, never use that term in front of me. And I was like, that's fascinating to me, because that term exists so people like you can feel access to it. And you're like, that term is horrific. It fascinating because you can't please everyone. I was like, and also what's interesting, sorry, I'm really on this now. But it's even more complicated in Wales because there's no Welsh version of stuff like that. It should be, the Welsh government are working on it at the minute because there's no Welsh language. So a really old term would be BAME, but you don't use BAME anymore. But BAME doesn't exist in the Welsh language because obviously it's an abbreviation of an English term. There's nothing in Welsh for anything like that, or even they don't exist. There's no term, and it has to be led from Welsh government. So they're doing like loads of work into like, you know, ways of identifying. But like what it means in Wales is like we're in a really weird. You can cut all this, by the way.
No, it's interesting.
But we're in a really weird, strange environment where people are like using their own terms to empower and like there's nowhere to lead from because the Welsh language, it doesn't exist at this. Well, it does, but there's nothing like official. It's a fascinating. They're working on it.
Yeah, I think Russell T Davies can do, if he can do anything, you know, he can. I think he's doing it in the right frame of mind, isn't he?
Oh,
and
completely.
It doesn't change the character at all, does it?
But also, it's just, you're completely right. He can do whatever he wants. That is the beauty of being able to come in and be a writer. And you get to do what you want with these characters. And I think why fans love Russell T Davies is they know it comes from a place of love because he's such a fan. Like, it comes from someone who is such a fan and loves the show that a lot of people are like, even if they don't like get it, they're like, but it's great for the franchise because look at all these great stories we're getting. Even if it's not something that I get, it's coming from a place of love. It's coming from a place of love of the show and these characters and these things, and that's the best place you can come from. But he can write whatever he wants. Like, there's that video going around of him being like, when people comment on it, he's laughing. It's almost like he knows it himself.
He knows what people are going to say. He knows what people are going to say, and I like in the Giggle as well when everybody is like, right, he's just commenting on like Twitter and Karen's and everything. Yeah. That's what everybody got turned into. And also, it's quite funny when Kate Lethbridge Stewart, she took the thing off and went on a rant and everything, and she had a rant at the lady in the wheelchair for like standing up, being like, you're standing up, blah blah blah, you know. In the Star Beast episode,
yeah, when she crossed
her legs, yeah. And everyone on Twitter were like, da, da, da. It's exactly so
interesting about that because I got sent something from a friend who'd watched it and was like, oh, but have you seen this? And I hadn't commented straight away because I'd seen it, but I was busy, I was working, and then an hour later they were like, oh, I've just seen something else. Ignore what I've just said, and then I was like. You do know the actress is in a wheelchair. Like, it is 2023. There's no fucking way they're casting someone in a wheelchair that's not in a wheelchair. Like, that would not be happening. She's also quite a well-known actress. We're in 2023. They're not going to not cast someone that doesn't need a wheelchair in a wheelchair. That's just not going to happen, right?
Which is, well, there. And then, obviously, everyone that's played Davros hasn't been a wheelchair user so far.
Yeah.
So
you know, and also he's not stupid, Russell T Davies. This is a show that is on prime time Saturday night TV on the BBC and now worldwide, right? It is like a prime spot. It's a Saturday night show. If you can get as much in the same way that like on Strictly, when I've forgotten her name, I want to say Anne, the deaf contestant was in that, and it completely opened up because she danced. So that was last season. She was what is her name, the actress? And people will be screaming at me now. But she was deaf and she danced and they won. And she could feel the beats of the music and stuff. So whenever they danced, they had to have silence so she could like hear, because she couldn't hear it. She was deaf, but she could feel it. Completely open. Like, that's why representation exists. So we can see people's, it's not about shoving things down people's throats as people seem to think. Like, it's about having those moments, and enough it opens your eyes to what other people might be having or going through, or understanding life. And he's not stupid. Why wouldn't you do this stuff? Why wouldn't you have like someone in a wheelchair in such a like part of unit in such a key role? And like some of those moments, why wouldn't you have like someone who's trans in the first episode, and seeing the relationship with a character that we know, like Donna? You know who Donna is, you know her personality because you've had her in the past. Why wouldn't you? Because if you can help with representation, it's primetime TV and it's sci-fi and fantasy. This is the perfect place. You're going to have to name this episode Daleks and the Giggle or something, mate, because we've talked about both.
No. Anyway, I was about to say, back to
1982.
back to 1980, back to the 1980s in a different world completely.
Yeah.
We have Davros as he is at the moment. Yeah, Turlough goes missing, like you say. And I wrote down, Turlough does the Resurrection of the Daleks set tour. All he does is wander around on his own for like that whole episode.
I know.
He goes from set to set, just observing, just on his own, just having a look around. That's all he does. Yeah,
that first story, he's just, like, he literally, that Dalek goes past him. He's just there. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just hanging around. But then we get the army guys come in with the Doctor and Tegan, and we have Professor Laird. I have to talk about her. She's brilliant. I really like her.
This the one with the glasses?
The lady with the glasses.
I loved her too. I loved her too. I want to go dressed
brilliant
as her. If I have to go to a convention, I could pull that off. I'm wearing the glasses now.
Yeah.
I've got
You're
the
Professor
brown
Laird.
hair. I just need whatever. Was it like a boiler suit?
It was like a big coat, wasn't it? Like a.
Oh yeah,
she was quite dressed down.
Yeah, I could rock
like
that. I could do that. I could be her. It'd be the most obscure like cosplay imaginable, but I could do it.
And it's weird because they're there because of these like alien things have been found, but they're not like, they're like army. They're not like unit. She's not like a Liz Shaw. I suppose she is a Liz Shaw. I don't know what. It's never really explained actually why they're there.
She has like really dark moments as well. In the second one, where she's like, "If only he drank the water," and she holds up like there's some really like dark moments.
She is, yeah. And she's like, "Would you like a cup of tea?" You know, like. But she
so
is
transparent.
So she's played by Chloe Ashcroft, who would have been known at the time. This is more like stunt casting. She was a kids' TV presenter, basically. So it's the equivalent of nowadays of having like
Anton Deckard.
And well, I was going to say Connie Huck as that role, like nowadays. That's when people watch it. That's who. So I think she is an actress, but she's more of a presenter. And I know her from.
Right.
This is before I ever watched Doctor. I think this is probably the first TV program I ever watched.
Oh, here we go.
As a child, it's called Pie in the Sky.
I've heard of it. Right.
So she wrote it and stars in it with her real life husband, and it's about these two bakers. they have like a pie shop and they're baking, and then one day this like UFO like thing comes down, and they're from the planet Pi, I think, and they want the bakers to make pies every week and put a song in like a nursery rhyme or a song into the pie.
The smell of their pies and the sound of their singing carried beyond Earth to outer space, to the planet Pi. And then from out of the sky came a pie ship. A pie in the sky. Its mission, to beam a dish down to earth to be filled with songs for the children of pie who had none of their own.
I ship the pie man! I ship the pie man! Stand by!
It's so bizarre, and this UFO is like a pie dish.
Of course.
So every week they get this alien get in contact with them and be like, we need a pie this week. And they're like, oh, what are we going to do? What song are we going to do? Anyway, there's a theme, and then you have nursery rhymes and stuff, and then they make this pie, put the song in it.
How did they put the song in it?
Oh, they have a like a magic what's that? You know the little bird thing you put in the middle of a pie, a steamer. They get one of those, and then it just, I don't know, it just all goes in. I don't know how. And then he's got a cycle with his pie to like the UFO spot, and then he has the pie, and it goes up UFO style off to the children of pie. It's brilliant. I mean, she played Professor Laird great, but she created this TV show amazingly. I don't think there was that many episodes, but it's from like 80s. It's from the 1980s, but it was sort of on when I was super young, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, it's, you know, Three Blind Mice and stuff, and they perform it and things, and then they do like
what pies
she looks
did
in the
they
window.
make?
Well, there's I'm not sure actually. Just
were they like traditional pies? Was it always a different pie?
well, no, it's like a pie, and then you know where they do the pastry on the shape. So if it's like Three Blind Mice, they do like little pastry mice on the front. But then also she has Pie of the Week.
That's quite enough of pies in the sky. It's pies in the window I like to spy. If my pies could move, if my pies could speak, which of my pies would be Pie of the Week?
Anyway, that is
I'm gonna
what I
watch
just
some of
love.
it.
Pie in the Sky.
It'll be on
It's
YouTube,
absolutely-
I'm sure.
There are a few on YouTube. But going back to Professor Laird, so it's her and Tegan quite a lot. And yeah, Tegan gets knocked out by a Dalek. It's a pretty bad cut from just falling over.
Yeah, I mean, she has that plaster on her head the whole time.
I mean, and that, you know, when her leaving scene, she is sort of upstaged a bit by that massive plaster on her head.
The massive plaster.
I mean,
It's
she's
like,
stuck with
let's
that.
show that she's like got an injury, massive bandage on her head the whole time.
And then she has to get into bed and stay there because it's so bad. I'm not sure if that's
Weighed
actually...
down by the weight of this giant plaster.
And like you say, it's a shame because she's stuck there then. Her and the Professor, they're great characters, but they're just stuck there.
They're just like,
And
they're just trying to get out, and then they do get out. But like, that's
then
not for ages.
because the Doctor goes off, and then you get... I quite like the way that the army people, they're sort of replaced by the replicas. I think they could have made more of that.
I think they could have as well, yeah.
Like... But then just finishing off Professor Laird's story, she doesn't really do much. When she gets shot, she's screaming, and she gets like machine gunned down. I mean, no wonder Tegan wanted to leave at the end of this story. It is, you know, you can see her reason. That is pretty
like
harsh.
I say, I thought it fit really well. It was just because she so wasn't in the story, it was a complete surprise. And I also found it interesting when the Doctor at the end was like, "Oh, I need to," not exact wording, but he was like, "I need to change my ways" or something. I can't remember how he said it.
Well, the big thing with the Doctor here is he has his moment where he's like, right, I'm going to go and kill Davros.
Yeah.
And he gets the gun to him and obviously doesn't go through with it.
What are you doing?
Until I walked through that door, I foolishly hoped you'd changed enough for me not to have to do this.
Stein! Kill him!
I'm not here as your prisoner, Davros, but your executioner.
That I like the scenes between him and Davros, and this Davros is great because he's got the mouth is moving. It's not a mask. It's a really good, well-fitted mask.
The only thing I don't like are the
looks really well.
hands.
Oh well, he's sort of his long nails.
Yeah, but like the gloves that he's wearing are really obviously gloves.
I don't know. I think they're all right.
I don't know. I found them a bit like annoying. The mask itself, because it moves and it feels almost animated in itself. Like it feels like they put it on his skin rather than and wear a mask. It feels like pieces that have been formed on. Whereas the hands are literally just silicone gloves. And they look at like sometimes when he was pushing things and you could see it all like, it's really obvious. I don't know. The gloves really annoyed me. But the rest of it looks really good. Maybe that's why, because the rest of it's so good, and then it's these shitty gloves that they do close-ups on, and I'm like, ugh, don't show that.
And you've got meanwhile, you've got Runa Lenska, cat lady.
Yeah.
And her and her crew are like just wandering around. As I say, she never meets the Doctor. They never interact. They never have part. They just have their own part of the story where they're trying to do the self-destruct, and then they all get killed.
Yeah.
And even the guy that Turlo hangs around with a bit, so he falls in with all of them a little bit and hangs around. They all end up dead.
Everyone,
like,
pretty much everyone ends up dead. Yeah.
It's funny because it's like they're not. We haven't really had that where they're not actually part of the story. They're just this complete side thing.
But then I guess that's the reality of it. It's the reality of the things we don't usually see.
Yeah, I suppose it does add to it a bit more. But it's like, well, why would you invest in all these characters and then they're just like.
For that, I think it's for the impact of Tegan leaving. Even though
she
Tegan
never even
doesn't
met
do
them.
much, when she says it, I was like, I get it.
But also that bit where she's running outside and there's a guy doing the metal detector and then they just shoot him. The police just shoot.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is pretty harsh. It is quite dark. I don't think we've had this kind of dark.
Not for a while. I think there was a period where we did when things were a bit dark, but it's been a while.
And then it's all about this virus stuff. I know Professor Laird, she like pretends to make it look like Tegan's asleep in a thing. That's not going to work. Sorry, that is the worst plan ever.
It doesn't even last that long. They do it, and then they just pull back the cover, and it's like, oh yeah. Yeah, it was a complete waste of time.
Well, we have, after the Doctor and Davros sort of face off, then this virus is released. Oh, that was it. We have all the duplicate stuff, don't we? The Doctor's lying down, they're trying to duplicate him, and they want to assassinate Gallifrey. They want to go to Gallifrey and do that. It's nice seeing all the different pictures of all the old companions.
Yeah,
up.
I enjoyed all that.
That's
nice. There was a lot of nice. That's where I was like, I can't mix things up.
Yes.
No, there's some really nice moments with that, and I'd probably rate this. I mean, I know more to talk about. I'd probably rate this a 7 out of 10. And I think part of it was that the way it was in the 2.
Who was your sort of favourite sort of guest character?
Oh, that woman whose name I can't remember.
Oh, definitely. Professor Laird. Okay.
It's just so, but it's just such a ridiculous character. She didn't even do that much. She's just so like funny but dark. I don't know. I was like, I was living for it.
Well, but most of her lines is when's the ambulance coming?
Tegan, like there was almost no threat to their situation. Like, I mean, there was, but whenever you saw just those two, it was just almost a moment of like relief.
And I didn't.
And then she gets killed, and it's like, oh, she's gone. I
didn't get because the Doctor explains straight away the Daleks are attacking, and I know they're there from the army, but if they're not unit, I was like, are they actually going to believe it? Do they actually believe it? But they sort of believe straight away. I know they get like killed and that straight away, and then replaced. But I think that always confused me. That like, actually, do they believe it or not, or what do they know?
There's a lot of unknown in this. There's a lot of unknown. There's
the bit where the Dalek mutant-y thing is in the warehouse loose and it gets on the guy's neck and attacks him. He was at a signing, that guy.
But again, I was expecting more from that. I thought that would come back as like a...
But then it's also reminded me where there's that cat. You know, where they think it's a thing and it's a cat.
Oh, yeah.
Which just reminded me. Do you know what? On YouTube, there are so many amazing live animal cams, right, where you can just watch them. And there's one in California,
right,
where it's all like disabled cats in this home, and they can't walk, and they're just sort of laid out on all these blankets. And I've just been watching those.
How many hours?
Quite a bit.
Is that what you do when you're ill? Because when I'm ill, I watch Hot Ones. I realised the other day. I need to watch people suffering when I'm ill.
No, it's just nice to have on the background. Just check in on what the cats in California doing, the disabled cats.
Send me the link.
There's a nice bird table in Ohio as well that I check in on every now and then. And there's one. It's like the House of Raccoons, right? And they've got like a sofa, they got a TV. It's a proper house. They got stairs. You've got the upstairs and the downstairs. I've never seen a raccoon. They're always out whenever I tune in. I don't know when.
At night they come in?
Day and night, I've checked. There's nobody there. There's the bowls out of food. There's all their furniture and stuff. Never seen the raccoons. They're always out.
That's so funny. You're missing them.
Anyway, it just reminded me. So there's the cat and the Dalek mutant thing. Okay, well, and then the Daleks, yeah, all the foam stuff comes out of them, and there's the battle back and,
happens
forth.
to Davros, yeah.
What are you thinking about Lytton? He's the only one, because he pretends, he plays dead, and then he gets up, and at the end, he dresses up as a policeman again, wanders off, and completely out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed a lot of stuff like that in this story.
And I think he's obviously from the future, but he walks off in like the 80s, which I don't know, I just couldn't get my head around as a child for some reason. I don't know why. It's quite simple. Okay. Tegan leaving then. I mean, we've sort of mentioned it before, but I can totally get it. And she's been through a lot in her time.
Yeah, she has. And she's been around a while.
My Aunt Vanessa said when I became an air stewardess, if you stop enjoying it, give it up.
Tegan.
It stopped being fun, Doctor.
And what do you think of her outfit, actually?
I mean, she's still in her heels, which I just think are the most impractical choice for any companion. I enjoyed the rest of her outfit. She had that colourful top on, didn't she? And the little leather skirt. It's probably the most practical outfit she's been in.
But, I mean, I suppose she couldn't have said to the Doctor, take me back somewhere else, because it wouldn't have got there. But, I mean, she's stuck out there.
She's in the present day, isn't she? She's at least in the present day. But, like, she's lost family. I mean, like, she's lost her aunt. She lost that cousin.
So, I mean, a lot has happened. Yeah, I mean, she says, like, a lot of good people have died today. I've had enough. She could have said that after her first story. But I was just looking up things that have happened to Tegan since. I mean, she comes back for, like, Jodie Whittaker. But this is all the books and stuff that happened. So apparently, what happened... Well, actually, in the book of Resurrection of the Daleks... She leaves the warehouse, and then those Lytton and the policeman are like going to get her, and she jumps over and jumps on a boat on the Thames and gets away. That's like a little extra bit. She does a bit of like a flip, like.
Of course she does, because she's never done that before.
Yeah.
She can never.
Yeah.
In those heels.
Anyways, it says here, Tegan was left on Earth with no money, no possessions, and no explanation of where she had been for 3 years. She returned to Brisbane, using money that her family wired to her so that she might leave London, and then spent several weeks travelling around the globe, dropping in on friends in Melbourne and London. Then she decided to get her job back as an air stewardess and wrote a letter to the airline, which she did not receive a response to. She then left a telephone message, and when she did not hear back, went to the airline offices and demanded to speak with the personnel director. Sounds like Tegan.
Yeah.
She managed to get a job back, and was to begin in February 1985, but she met a nice man who made her feel settled. Oh, what do
made her feel what?
Feel settled. She met a man, basically.
I thought you said sound. I was like...
Oh, she ran her father's farm out in the outback for a bit. The Doctor visited her in 1987 to reassure her that she did not have to worry about the Mara.
Of course, yeah.
Fine, okay. What else? Oh, in the 1990s, Tegan answered a small advert in Time Out magazine, which called for anybody who knew what the word TARDIS meant. She went to London, where she reunited with Sarah Jane Smith, met Liz Shaw, Joe Grant, and reminisced with them over wine, although she was less positive than the others.
Sounds like Tegan.
Tegan embarked on a romantic relationship with Michael Tanaka, a colleague of hers. However, she ended the relationship in 2006 after discovering she had an inoperable brain tumour, which she suspected was a result of her TARDIS misadventures. On her birthday that year, she was reunited with the Doctor and refused his offer of travelling with her to find a cure, telling him that she was happy with her life. I think that doesn't really count because now she's back in it and that's not mentioned. So there we go. So again, this always happens with these companions. The books and the stuff in the 90s, they always give them some like grim outlook. I don't know why they do that. Tegan has been in it since the end of the fourth Doctor. We haven't had a fifth Doctor story without Tegan.
I know. It's been a long time.
Do you think it was her time though?
Yeah. I mean, I felt it for a few weeks.
They always, and now it's just the Doctor and Turlough.
Yeah. I think I'm actually excited. I hope that we have at least one story where it's just the Doctor and Turlough. And I hope that they get him dressed into something else.
I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Even like walking around with all those like troopers and the Daleks and stuff, he's still in that uniform.
I know. I'd like to have a little bit more Dr. Turlough time, in the same way that we've had quite, because he's sort of like this weird character of, sometimes he just gets a bit forgotten, and I don't know.
Yeah, and he is forgotten in this as well, isn't he? It's not.
Oh yeah, he's just wandering around by himself, finds people, sorts things out. Yeah,
especially after
and
last week.
He
when
can be
he had a bit
useful
more.
because he's sort of a alien himself. Like, I think that's what provides quite an interesting.
It's a shame because actually there's so many side characters in this that actually one of them could be taken out and Turlough could have done quite a bit. Okay, well I think this is really well directed as well. I think that's what it is. It's got a good director, good lighting, great location stuff. I think it is a strong story. So yeah, there we go. And the next story is 4 episodes, obviously. Not always obvious, but good to know. And it's called Planet of Fire.
Oh, like I said, I hope it's just a Dr. Turlough story. And at most, maybe someone joins at the end. But I'm hoping we have at least one where someone doesn't.
Join us next time for Planet of Fire. And in the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 2watchwho. And you can support us at buymeacoffee.com/2watchwho.
Yeah.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.
To watch who?